All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another edition of PHLY Union Podcast. I am one of your hosts, JP Zapata. Joined as always with Renee Washington. We're back. It's the off season. We're nestled in. What's going on, Renee?
Well, it's nice because it's finally officially the off season for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm having like deja vu weirdly as I say that, but apparently I've been
Miss
here.
Summer
We've been
Sports
here
over
before. Yeah, like we've been here before apparently. But it's great, JP, because now everybody's in the off season period of what signings and trades are happening. What's the draft going to look like? What's, before we know it'll be January, February, we'll start preparing for the start of preseason and everything. So we're all in the same boat, and I like that we're all in this together now, Cue High School Musical, because it was frustrating to still see other soccer games being played, knowing the Union were sitting at home.
That's right. You know what's crazy too about this time period is there are times where like I'm looking at like guys like Tom Bogart's like, wow, he must have a cool job. Like the insides of MLS, you get the news before almost everyone else. But like they really don't have a day off, do they?
No.
Like, you think of like Tom Bogart's, Woj, Shefty, like these guys never sleep. They have like 5 different phones. They got like all these teams coming at them with different news. I'm Tom. I'm praying for you, buddy, because that's
you
a
know
lot.
what? I've actually never really had the desire to be that breaking news person. I actually have a number of friends that are kind of vying for that spot in respective sports leagues, and I've heard like they have their own set of problems of like not getting credited for who broke it first, or no, there's a weird when we build these relationships with players and coaches, there are things that you're allowed to share and things you're not allowed to share, but sometimes you want to share that news because you want to be the first to break that news. Or it's even worse, somebody else breaks it and you already knew about it, but you couldn't share it because you didn't want to defy that, mess up that relationship and that friendship, I should say. And so you don't break it. Now you got to sit back and watch others take the credit. It's a lot. It's like there could be a whole reality show on like the breaking news bandits. I'm just going to call them that. I don't know what to call them because it's a whole other world of chaos and kind of some cutthroat behavior. So I don't envy them at all, but I am thankful for them because they help make our reporting jobs that much easier, that I don't mind being the second.
And it's funny too is that like you look in like Tom's comment section, it's like, well, Tom, it's like Chicago news, like, well, Tom, where's Philly in all this? Well, like he's gonna get to it, guys. Like everyone thinks like he's like on demand, like he's on demand. He's got like news for every team in the MLS, but it is that time period. We're gonna get a lot of rumors. We're obviously gonna be refreshing Tom Bogart's Twitter profile here, so it's gonna be a long offseason here, but that's why you guys are watching or listening to PHLY Union, because we will all have you guys with everything updated.
Yeah, it's an exciting time for sure. Even for us at PHLY, I know we will have a great opportunity to actually be live and in person next week. And today, since it's Tuesday, it's exactly 1 week from today that all of our PHLY shows will be down at Reading Terminal Market and have an opportunity for us to be able to interact, get some good food. We'll be all day just having the shows back to back. So you can come and meet the team. We'll be live from Reading Terminal Market. We will have our PHLY Philly show first, and then from there run through all the rest. We will not have a PHLY Union show, but we'll be running through all the other shows: Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, Sixers, live from Reading Terminal Market, JP. And you had me sold at food. Like I heard we're going to get free food. We're going to be able to have an opportunity to, get to try. I mean, I've had mostly everything at Reading Terminal Market already, but eat everything around there for free and then also get to mingle. And what's better than mingling and chewing?
Well, I will say, although we will not be live, I want to tell you guys, definitely come on over, represent because obviously you're going to have plenty of Eagles fans, plenty of Sixers fans, Flyers, Phillies, all rocking the gear, but we're going to need some Union fans. So listen, you like food like Renee and I, come on down, get some vibes, get some food, and definitely check it out. Renee, I'm curious, what's your favorite spot down there?
Come on, JP. I'm not telling you. You know what it is. You guys know me well enough. I'm not even answering this. between you and Tyler, I feel like you should know me well enough. If you had to pick a food that at a Reading Terminal Market, if I like is my favorite, what is it?
Definitely wherever there's mac and cheese, right?
It's obviously grilled cheese. Like, that's pretty well established.
Oh, you guys really don't know?
No,
it's all the dessert spots. Duh.
Oh, that's
like,
good
I mean, if
too.
I'm going in there hungry, clearly I'm going for like a cheesesteak, a burger. I could eat burgers every single day. And actually, I did at one point. Quick story. The first a couple months of my college time, I had a burger every day, and I put on a solid 20 pounds because I was having a burger a day as my lunch or dinner every single day. I love burgers. So actually I probably could be a burger or a cheesesteak. But if I can only have one thing every time I go in there, it's their desserts. Cause I love desserts, cake, ice cream, cookies. I thought you guys knew me better than this.
All those pastries are definitely good. I don't think you would pick the pastries, but I don't blame you.
Honestly,
sure.
I always said cake was my favorite food.
Okay. I like that.
I don't know if you consider it a food, but it is my favorite food. So yes, I'm going for the sweets.
Obviously, my counterpart on PHLY Flyers, Bill Matt's going to be going to the Knicks 3 times from what his tweet said.
Oh, yeah. What is yours, good. JP? Where would you be headed?
I mean,
where are you going, I should say?
I'm always going to be cliche to myself, and I'm going to go with probably one of the best Puerto Rican restaurants in Philadelphia, and that's Loco Lucho's, that little corner spot. Fantastic food, not only for Puerto Rico, but the Caribbean as well. But, I'm going to shout out my Latinos out here.
It's interesting because I don't have a favorite spot at Reading Terminal Market.
It's all good food.
I just love food. So I don't know that I could fully just say this is the only spot I can go to. But welcome in Spiral Out. Hey. Happy to have you here. As you guys are trickling and hit that like button, join the conversation. I don't know. Yeah, I just cannot find I can't pick one. I can't just pick one. I struggle with that.
It's definitely if you are hungry, you're just what am I craving for? Just go to Reading Terminal because you'll probably find something. Just one smell, that's what I'm craving right there.
It can be overwhelming though.
It can.
I went in there with a friend not too long ago and it was extremely overwhelming. Wait a minute, what do we pick? So I'm just excited because now we don't have to have those problems. We're just going to be able to eat everything. And that sounds great to me. The more food, the merrier.
So make sure you guys come out next Tuesday, hang out with everyone here at PHLY Sports. We'll be having a good time, gaining some weight. I can't see anything wrong with that, guys.
I have no complaints. I've got no complaints whatsoever. But listen, I also have no complaints about the way things have been going the last, today's only Tuesday. So technically it's only been 3 days, which is kind of wild because it feels like it's been a very long time since the MLS Cup. Since the MLS Cup, we've had a lot go down. And Tyler, are you yay or nay? Are you good to go on the item at hand?
Yes.
Okay, so we did see officially the news that the Philadelphia Union made, I don't want to say this is their first deal because we've already had one other signing. So their second signing, thank you, Tyler. Isaiah LeFlore signed to a 1-year deal through 2024. This was the tweet that went out from the Union as they were, of course, sharing the news that they're going to be bringing in LeFlore. LeFlore brings you a lot of different things. And so welcome indeed to Philly, LeFlore. LeFlore is someone that's going to add youth, but also as a left back is the first step in that investment for the future for the Union. We have talked about, we don't know what's going to happen with Kai Wagner, but regardless if Kai Wagner stays or goes, the Union need to add more into their back line in terms of outside backs. So LeFlore signs that 1-year contract, and now you get a guy that's played through the USL, played through the MLS Next Pro, really has proven himself. And I know Ernst Tanner was speaking about that. He's a promising young prospect with potential to fit well in our system. He's an offensive-minded left back who's ready to test himself at the next level, and we look forward to contributing to his development. So I've seen a couple clips. Shout out to our guy Jimmy who posted some footage of him. I was looking at Jimmy's footage that he posted, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, I can see some glimpses and some potential there that with the right confidence, development, system, that he can be someone that's gonna be able to contribute offensively as well as on the defensive side as a left back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want people to think this is the automatic replacement for Kai Wagner. It could be down the line. I don't know if that is the case, but I do think that going forward, either the Union will bring back Kai at a certain rate, or they will find a cheaper option. Because I do think that there could be a future here. Because when you look at this kid, I mean, with 36 appearances for Dynamo 2, 6 goals, 6 assists, from my understanding, I do want to give a big shout out to my buddy down in not Arizona, Houston, Victor Arizia. He covers Houston Dynamo down there, so I wanted to reach out to my buddy to see if he knew anything about him, because obviously Dynamo too. It's always hard to get the good look on the MLS Next clubs,
Yeah.
but with this kid, a lot of raw talent. He actually was with the B side of Sporting Club Braga over in Portugal. I mean, look, anytime you're playing in over one of these European clubs, especially for the youth academy, you definitely have something there. He's got some speed. I think defensively is more so where he needs to shore up, and I'm hoping that the development here, he can build that part of his game, but he obviously can cross that ball in. We've been rumored with left backs left and right since the Kai Wagner news, honestly, since the contract talks with Kai Wagner. So it is clear that the Union want to get younger here at this position. And keep in mind, the Anton Source situation did not work out as well. So Victor comes in, fills that slot, young player. Hopefully we can continue his development. And look, you see what happened to Nathan Harriel. Olivia Beisel, listen, he's developed as well. I know defensively it's been frustrating, but you've seen him since 21 to now. You've seen the improvement that he's had. And so you're hoping that LeFlore can follow in those footsteps here. But I do think we're not done at that left back position in particular.
No, I agree. This is by no stretch of the imagination a move that's going to be the last that we see, hopefully, from the Union. That's not the expectation. It's just right now we're seeing them bring in some young guys that you now get a chance to evaluate, see what they can do, and see if they can help add. And I think someone like Isaiah LeFlore as a left back, why not take a chance on him? First of all, I just want to say, weirdly enough, as today is December 12th, and I always have to double check because I never know what day it is. He just celebrated his 21st birthday yesterday.
Man.
Like, what a great way. He was born, this made me feel so old, December 11th, 2002. I was like, oh, I was born in 1992. This guy is like, wait, 10 whole years younger than me. That math is mathing. And it's like, okay, that's interesting when I think about it, because I'm like, oh, wow. Anybody that's born after 2000, I feel a little old with. But
that's crazy. That's
just a 90s baby. So LeFlore has had his fair share of different stops that he's made along the way, as you've talked about. And that's been a big, I think, point that shows kind of his progression, and that he's played in different spots. You look at playing with like Shattuck St. Mary's and playing with Portugal for 3 years, and then playing in Portugal, I should say, not with. He played with Desportiva. I know you can say this better than me, but I'm going to take a crack at it. Associação Desportiva Oeiras.
That sounds pretty good. My Portuguese is not the best. I did pick up a little bit when I went over, but that sounded pretty good.
Thanks, JP. So he played in Portugal for a few years, played with Shattuck St. Mary's, also, of course, played with, as mentioned, Sporting KC's academy team back in 2020. He's played with Houston Dynamo. And so he's been working his way through the ranks and seeing his progression as somebody that, with the Houston Dynamo second team, was one of the leading contributors as an outside back across the league. That's something that jumped out at me. Of course, he's also had opportunities with the youth national team as well. And to see the fact that he's able to get involved in the attack and has the engine to go is very encouraging, because that's something that's hard to teach. Yeah. There are a lot of traditional outside backs that want to just stay at home, but for him to have the comfort level that he's able to get forward, able to be another addition and asset into the attack, that he's flying up the left flank. You see him in the box, you see him getting crossed, you see him getting shots, and that's what led to him being able to contribute in terms of having not only great tackles, interceptions and duels, but also 6 goals and 6 assists along with that across 36 appearances over the last 2 years. So as an outside back, you'll take that. And I think, to your point about his defensive side, I don't anticipate or predict anybody makes that jump from the MLS Next to the top team and seamlessly is ready. There's always a learning curve, especially on the defensive side, because it is you're now playing the best of the best, and you're going up against attackers that are going to have, the creativity and the flair and the fakes and the moves and the runs that are just going to be different. The timing of the game's different, of course, the speed, the physicality. So I'm hoping that he'll be on a similar track as what we saw Nate Harriel do. I think Nate Harriel, Jack McGlynn were great at just slowly getting better, slowly improving, taking their lumps and having the learning curve. But we've seen, even as recent as this past year, in the final games of the regular season and into the postseason, where it's like, okay, Nate Harriel and Jack McGlynn are steady starters. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping that LeFlore can have that same type of trajectory that a year from now we see him progressing, that he can be vying for a starting role.
Well, I hope LeFlore does perform well in practice. I know we talked about it in prior episodes, but I mean, you know how valuable Jim holds those practice times, so that'll definitely determine how much he will be playing here. But I'm just intrigued of who was actually interested in LeFlore. He was a free agent.
Yeah.
He came from Houston, where it was just a logjam. That's really what it was. He obviously was heading in the right direction, but the man wants to be on a senior team. He's 21 years old. You don't have a long time with the soccer thing, right? So he wants to bet on himself from what it looks like, and he wants to come to Philly, where obviously job's not guaranteed, but the development and what they've done, especially with the players on this team right now, that has to entice any young player like LeFlore. So obviously not a lot of time here for him to get his chances as a senior team, unfortunately, with the way soccer works with some of these youth players, but I'm excited to see how LaFleur integrates with this team. And, he's a young guy. Maybe, I want to see if he can, they can build some chemistry with Harriel. And we'll see if Abiza does come back. Obviously, Matt Rial. It's so funny because he's like one of the OG, like, homegrown players. And he's technically like a veteran player, but like he's homegrown still, kind of. So
I know.
It's funny seeing him still here.
I know. And that says a lot about him in itself, because not a lot of people stay here that are homegrowns. But to the point of LaFleur specifically, I like the fact that the Union have consistently been a team as a club that's developing guys and able to help them really play at an elevated level, where they're someone that you don't hear a lot about prior to their time with the Union. They come in with the Union, and now they're a mainstay that's getting either a starting role, 90-minute player, or even just a strong role player. And hopefully Isaiah LeFlore is going to be able to add that same type of upswing for the Union, because it's needed. And as I look across the board at the different moves that teams are making, and in terms of trades and signings, and we'll get into a lot of that much more in the show, I'm glad that we at least are seeing the Union in the mix with that. Like, at least the Union have done something. Yes. At least the Union have now expanded on bringing in another young player, and that we can at least see in this early window, because it's already been a quick time with the trade window opening after the MLS Cup. Obviously, teams had their rosters locked in for who they're definitely going to be bringing back, and now you're starting to see the funnel of, all right, well, who's next? Who's moving? Who's going to be on their way out? So I liked that I saw, okay, the Union are at least being somewhat, I guess, aggressive in that sense of trying to make sure they're also using this time period to bring in and evaluate some young guys.
Definitely. Obviously, at least listen, these to me are like little appetizers that you're seeing here. And, the Sanders and Gabo one as well, I throw into that same category too.
Yes.
I think a lot of fans want to see them splash that big dough. Guys, I'll be honest, I don't know how much dough we're actually going to be spending considering what we have seen so far, but give it some time. I think right now what I'm more looking forward to is what is going to happen with Pereira and Joaquin Torres. Pereira obviously has been linked to NYCFC return since NYC season has been over. And for Joaquin, I've been hearing him a lot in some trade rumors. I mean, I really don't know what the value is. Like, I do think there is some type of value, because like I talked about before, I just don't think the system works here. But there is a team out there that probably could use the services. But that's really what I'm looking forward to here. And then we'll see what kind of players they do plan on signing. I mean, they definitely need some depth. And that was proven over last year. And just by watching this MLS Cup that we saw here.
That is definitely the case. So I agree. I think the two signings that we've seen so far for the Union are definitely not anything that you're going to be excited about in the sense of, oh, the Union are now going to go and win the MLS Cup. No, that's not the case. But you look at bringing in someone like Isaiah LeFlore and Sanders Ngabo. Okay, these are at least them starting to try to funnel in some young talent. Eugene Krabs welcome, and I don't know what Nick Sirianni said in the presser. Didn't see it. I was prepping and then on the show here. But yes, it's kind of similar to what Toronto's doing with the Blue Jays in Major League Baseball when you look at what the Union are doing in Major League Soccer. But that's not a surprise for me, because the Union have consistently been someone that's going to pay less. And I don't expect that to change at all this season. I know they've talked a lot, and even just like hearing a lot of the recent pressers and comments that were made about, we're just going to focus on development. That's been the biggest foundation of this club, is spending less, developing more, and trusting that through the way that we train and the way that we work guys through homegrown contracts and everything like that, we can afford to pay less and get more, essentially.
I mean, like, I'm not opposed to what we do, right? Because I do think that it is extremely valuable of developing players like this. And obviously, you can sell them off for a lot more money. I mean, you hear a lot of talks about Kevin Sullivan. Will he even play for the senior team? That remains to be seen. But I still think that that's important. It's about foundation. You see what's going on right now with the Philadelphia Flyers. You want to create that foundation, and that's the foundation of the union. Finding those young players and developing. However, where I have my issues is that when you are looking for that key piece, you're looking for that killer to score those goals, or just, right before the season, you've realized maybe the guy at the left shoulder midfielder is not the guy. Just as an example, go spend that money to find the player that will fill that role adequately. And that is where I've had my criticisms with the Philadelphia Union. So yes, find a way to develop players, get players like LeFlore. Obviously, he has some raw ability that you could just continue developing here. But at the end of the day, when you need those important players, you just saw what happened on Saturday afternoon in Columbus. Who were the big-time players and how much money were they making? Unfortunately, I hate to be that guy. I hate be talking about dollars and cents here. But unfortunately, that's kind of what it comes with here, guys. And so I'm curious to see how the union continue to improve upon from 2022, 2023 on to 2024.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, is when you look at the difference between top teams, championship caliber teams, and that next tier, it's the fact that they do have those Acucho Hernandez, a guy that you can rely on in big moments that's going to lift the team. And so I'm kind of a little different in terms of the outlook on the youth than you are. I do think that it's great to have a system that allows you to bring in homegrowns where they're developing. And listen, there are a lot of clubs out here on the professional level, collegiate level, high school level, whatever, that are not developing players. That's just the fact of the matter, especially in soccer. And so I value and respect and appreciate the fact that the union are able to develop guys, because there's this, for whatever reason, understanding that athletes reach a point where they're no longer able to be coached. And that's just not true. You can always get better. There's always room to develop. There's always room to get more explosive, get a better read on the game, work on your first touch, whatever it may be. There's always something you can improve on. So I love the fact that the union are still able to lock in on that and still have that as their foundation. But that cannot be it. There needs to be more. There needs to be other, more of a blend in terms of, how the union are spending their funds and bringing in that veteran, bringing in that goal scorer, bringing in that big name player. When are we going to see the union sign someone that you're like, that's the guy? That we listen, Julian Carranza, Daniel Gazdag have been great assets on the team, but you're still not fully that game changer, MVP caliber type of a player. And we haven't seen the union be able to do that. And that's something like, I know I was looking at names of some of the young talent. It's David Vasquez, who we talked about, the 17-year-old. Jose Riasco is another name that's come up, who's played for the union too and made 10 appearances with them before being loaned to Club Atletico, Boston River, and he's bounced around a little bit. We talked about Sanders Nagabo. There's been young guys that have been on the radar for the union that they've been keeping an eye on or bringing in. And so I like that. Great. Keep an eye on those guys. But let's also keep an eye on the other guys that are, that you can bring in for north of $1 million, pay more, but you're going to get more when you do that, because they're going to be those game-changing players. So welcome in, Beta. Nice to see you here as well. What's up, everyone in the chat? Agreed, Eugene Krabs. Hit the like button, hit the comments, join the conversation. But here we are again. Another opportunity to talk about the union bringing in a young guy. That's what they do best. 21-year-old Isaiah LeFlore, who just celebrated a birthday yesterday. Couldn't even legally drink until yesterday.
Renee's ready to talk about Anton Griezmann to Philadelphia Union. And I completely get that. And I get the frustration as well. It's just that it's hard now for myself personally to continue defending what they've been doing, because I'm back at it again. Another offseason trying to figure out, how does my team hoist that trophy that we all want? And it's just definitely tough. I mean, you bring up the DPs that we have right now, and consistency has obviously been a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And Carranza, Gazak, and Ure at the same time all took a regression this year. But it's just tough with Ure. Like that Cincinnati game, that was just such a rough way to kind of go into the offseason, having those lasting images going into it. So, look, I think it's simple here for the Union. I do think that everything is in place for this team. I do like some of the star power they have. I do, obviously, like the coach is super important. I do want to talk in depth about Wilfred Nancy because I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he did. But you also have a really, really good freaking coach in this league too, still on this team. Depth, again, we're gonna bang that drum all throughout the offseason, but that to me is gonna be the big thing that they need to solidify here in the offseason, because I think that was the main difference of why we were watching the MLS Cup from our couches instead of possibly watching it in Super Park.
Yeah. And I know, Jose, you're saying in the chat, it is definitely tough to find that middle ground of like spend, but also develop. There's got to be a way to do both. And we see a lot of clubs that have the struggle where they're either spending a lot and not developing and just kind of having this rotation of guys of like, if you're not cutting it, we're just bringing the next guy. And then we see a lot of clubs. I know we were talking about it with Wes from Nashville on our show last week. We've obviously talked about it plenty of times with the Union, where they're more of that development side and locking in on, having guys that are a little bit under the radar that you're getting them to play at a higher level. And there's got to be a middle ground. And then I know Ernst Tanner was talking about depth, something else we've hit on many, many times. He was saying we need to have the depth, but we need to use the depth. In a worst case scenario, we could have 5 absences at the same time, and more or less all of them are key players. That's what we're going to expect in the summer, but then there's some time that we can do some things in development until then. So essentially, you are expecting when you play 51 games, there are going to be times that you're not going to be at 100%. That's just the nature of the beast. But what happens next? If you have injuries, you have somebody gets sick, maybe just somebody's legs just aren't feeling it that day, and you need to give them less minutes. We talked about Joaquin Torres, and we've talked about Chris Donovan and different guys that have come off the bench and been role players, Leon Flack working back. What does that depth look like? And unfortunately, down the stretch for the Union, there were many times where it was like, wait a minute, who are they going to sub for?
Yeah.
Like, Jose Martinez goes down. Okay, now who? Jesus Bueno, who glad to see that he'll, continue to be a fixture for the Union. Okay, outside of him, don't know what's going to happen with Ali, of course. Jack McGlynn, El Brujo. Who else is in the midfield? Like, you cannot start the season off with low numbers in these spots. So I'm hoping that moves like bringing in Isaiah LeFlore are to do exactly that. Sanders Nagabo, exactly that. Adding more depth that you can have guys that, when needed, can actually step into the game and make a difference. Because you cannot play 51 games and expect to be competitive all the MLS games, international games, and then, of course, the MLS Cup if you don't have depth and you're just wearing on the same guys over and over again. Unfortunately, I think that's why guys like Uwa Gazdag and Julian Carranza were struggling down the stretch. I think they were burnt out, essentially.
Yeah, no, that's literally. And I want to add on to your point as well. And, obviously Eugene Krabs want to talk some birds, so let's talk some birds here. So everyone always talks about the backup to Jalen Hurts needs to be a mobile quarterback because that's how Jalen Hurts play. And to bring it to Philly with the Union, I thought what worked so well with the depth last year, Corey and Paxton were pretty much interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Corey came in, he still was great on the press. His athletic ability, it was just so hard to contain if you're a back line after being tired for 60 minutes. And I love that interchange that you had. Like, you could put him in for Carranza, you could put him for Ura. Like, it really wasn't changing much out. And then Paxton, I thought Paxton played a lot similarly to Daniel Gazak as well. So, like, I would like to see that because obviously, like, yes, Jim is married and knows this one type of philosophy. So when you have a guy like Paxton and a guy like Corey, they come in the second half and it's seamless. I think that is what they kind of need to look for. Yeah. Having Quinn come off, having Joaquin Torres come on, like, those guys, I felt like did not fit what they were trying to do, philosophy-wise in the second half.
Yeah.
And so, like, that to me, I think they need to get back to that. So it'll be interesting to see if they can find those type of players again.
I'm going to take your Eagles metaphor and raise you a Sixers metaphor because I also think of it as what's working well for the Sixers so far this season is, okay, you have Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, who are your main two, averaging around 30 points a game. But then after that, you have, Kelly Oubre, Tobias Harris that can give you good points and production offensively. You have someone like Paul Reed who can help be a presence in the paint. You have someone like Pat Bev who can defend well and just play aggressive. Rob Covington who just kind of fits here and there. Where are those other pieces for the Union? Who is their Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey? Mm-hmm. And then who's their other guys that are just consistently, whether it's Melton, Harris, Oubre, giving you good minutes, giving you production, and just steady role players. And you need to have that versatility across your roster that in a pinch, okay, if we need to have more of an inside presence and a change, we're going to bring in Paul Reed. If we need to maybe play a little bit more up-tempo and play aggressive, we're going to bring in Pat Bev. I don't think the Union even have that in terms of depth. Yeah. That depending on what the game requires, they can make tweaks and adjustments in terms of personnel that matches what the game requires. You need to be able to make tactical adjustments. I love being able to switch from a 3-5-2 to a 4-4-2 to a pinch diamond to a wide midfield, but you also need to be able to switch personnel. And if a game is more physical and up-tempo, having somebody that you can plug into those places. Or if you need someone that can kind of stretch the field and make more, whatever it is. So I would love to see the Union get to a point where you can still have, similar to the Sixers actually, a lot of people counted them out, myself included, this season because it was like, oh, wait a minute, without James Harden, you just have a big two? Mm-hmm. You don't need to have all these superstars across your roster, but you need to have versatility and talent and pieces that work well together where you just have that dog mentality. You grind it out every game. You're battling, you're competing, but you can also match whatever the game calls for to raise the level whenever you need to. And I feel like there were those times where the Union was like, you knew what they needed to fix, but they didn't have the pieces to make the fix. So it's like, all right, they're looking fatigued. They need to get a change in the midfield. Oh, wait, they don't have that change. Or they're getting outpossessed. They need someone that can help control the tempo. Don't have that piece. Like, you need to have that versatility in terms of your lineup and your depth that depending on what the game dictates and what's needed. We just played 3 games in the last 7 days. We've traveled a lot. We need to maybe just have a possession-oriented lineup. What does that look like for the Union? Yeah. So I'd love to see even that change of not only having that next player up mentality that can maintain the level, but having a little bit more versatility in how they look, where it's not so predictable and it's not so, unfortunately at times, kind of like forced, where we don't have any other options. So you have to just stick with what you got.
No, absolutely. I mean, you did see a little tactical flexibility this year, but then teams started figuring out the 3-back set, and now you can't really attack. 2020, 2022, what made it so well attacking-wise, obviously they were scoring a lot of goals, but that possession, that build-up play was beautiful to watch.
Beautiful.
And it just really wasn't there all that often last year. And yeah, like Renee said, like, you're interchanging lineups, you're interchanging tactics every single match, and you're just not all on the same page, and you're playing catch-up, you're playing 3 matches in 1 week. Mm-hmm. It is a lot. Now, the Union do have a taste. Like, they had a full season to kind of evaluate and take that into next year. Yeah. So now you are going to be better prepared for it. So better prepare for it.
All right. Guys. Well, Tyler, I know in the chat, I know you saw it because Babita made the comment. And obviously, you could see the comment quicker than us. And listen, you are the perfect person to jump in for a Flyers or Phillies reference. JP hit us with the Eagles reference.
I don't know about Sixers. The Flyers, but
all right, hit us with a Phillies reference.
So it's actually kind of funny that we've kind of gone down this path because you're talking about uniformity with depth and with guys coming off the bench, and isn't that the exact argument against the Phillies? The last 2 seasons, this is a team that is built to slug. It's a team that's going to hit a lot of home runs. It's a team that's going to score a lot of runs at times, and they're going to drive you frustratingly mad when they strike out 10 times to a guy you've never heard of in Brandon Pfaadt. So, like, it's very funny that, like, when you play these hypothetical – I shouldn't even say hypothetical. When you play these, like, comparable games where – the argument you're making for the Union is the argument that a lot of people are making against the Phillies. They're like, we need a contact hitter. You need a guy who doesn't strike out. You need a guy who gets on base and go back to OBP and walks. It's so funny to see basically 2 sides of the same coin, and the argument is so polarizingly different.
Yeah.
We just have a bunch of Union and Phillies fans now in the chats going, now I get it. There you go.
Yeah, right? But it is interesting because it is different from the Phillies, where it's like you would love to have that superstar slugger for the Union.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, when we played Copa America a couple years ago, Jim, like, mentioned that, like, the fact that, I think at that time we had like Paxton and Jack and Nate all on the bench. And Global Medica's got players that are making $1 million a year coming off the bench. And then there's guys who barely just graduated high school and are here on our bench. So it's obviously 2021, things have changed. And, Don Garber has done his State of the Union of the MLS. And he's kind of, I think he's on notice. And you've heard the heavy rumors about the fourth DP. Obviously, more money needs to be allowed to spend for these teams as well when you're trying to compete on a global stage. Inter Miami is going to go on a Saudi Arabia tour, so more money is going to be dished around the MLS.
Yeah, and also with that, as Jim Curtin was talking about, there's possibly going to be some changes in, as we talk about tactics and how they're rolling out into the different games that they're playing. And look, across leagues, we just saw the Lakers win the inaugural NBA in-season tournament. We're seeing more and more leagues mimicking what soccer does.
Isn't that crazy?
I know. It's so funny to me. Everyone's like, I don't understand the NBA in-season tournament. Or I don't understand the Commissioner's Cup for the WNBA or whatever. I'm like, listen, soccer's been doing this forever. This is something that is a mainstay of soccer where you have, in the midst of a regular season, these smaller tournaments where you can win hardware.
Except the Lakers aren't going to like Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Correct. They played in like Vegas. United. So for Jim Curtin, he was saying, maybe this is time to prioritize and tweak how, he said, get creative with what games we go full tilt after and which games we go, let's rotate and change, and then try to keep that, make sure the drop off is not that much. So he's saying it's a challenge for his staff and for the club as a whole that as you're looking across 51 games, maybe there are those games that Joaquin Torres might get a start in because it's, a international game and you don't want to have to start someone else. So that also is something I would be intrigued to see. But what helps that is exactly like we're mentioning is if you have that depth that you now can maybe change your starting 11 or change your rotations in those games. And also that does help give a chance for other players to get an opportunity. And you never know, that could pan out in a big way. I feel like for the NWSL and for the MLS, a lot of times we do see those players that win roles or win more minutes in those international games or in-season tournament games that you're able to see somebody really step up when their name is called. So hopefully that's the case because as we talked about last week, we need to see what's possible to allow the union to get to a point where they're hoisting up an MLS Cup trophy and winning a title because that's been the ultimate goal that we have fallen short of time and time again. But I know Eugene Krabs is saying ad incoming. Yes, ad is incoming. I'm not even going to have a witty transition here. If we want to see the union be a winner. And you know where you can be a winner? It's over at Hero Bread. You can win the day. You can eat healthy. You can eat right. Over at Hero Bread, they have all types of different options for tortillas, sliced breads, buns that you can purchase. High fiber, ultra low net carbs, 0 gram sugar per slice, and less calories than the leading national brand. And at Hero Bread, you can use the code PHLY when you shop at hero.co or on Amazon to be able to purchase some bread. They've got soft, fluffy, delicious bread that allows you to eat right, regardless, I should say, whatever diets you're trying to follow, any allergies you may have, or whatever your lifestyle calls for. Hero Bread is the place for you. You can use that code PHLY to be able to get a nice 10% discount off of your purchase. And you can eat like a champ. Eugene Krabs, you were close. You were 0 for 3, but you were correct in that. We did have an ad coming because we are already over the 30-minute mark and we hadn't read a single ad yet. But Babita's like, Krabby got it wrong. I'm reading your comment. It's like, Krabby got it wrong. Listen, as we're talking about champions, we can't start or go through the show, I should say, without talking about the fact the Columbus Crew did have their parade today. It, of course, ended at Lower.com Field. I was watching the updates. I wasn't watching the parade, but I was watching the updates. And, parades also always kind of put you in your feels a little bit. Mm-hmm. But congratulations officially on the show, since we haven't had a chance to say it yet, to the Columbus Crew.
Jason Kelce performances in Columbus.
I know. Congrats to them for winning 2-1 over LAFC. A lot unfolded in that game. Very exciting moment for the Crew as they won their first title since the 2020 season, their 3rd overall, knocked off LAFC. LAFC, who had gotten to the finals of every possible tournament they played in this year, did not win a single one. And the Columbus Crew kept them winless in championships.
How would we feel about that here? I mean, we probably would be going a little crazy about that one. Going all those finals and not winning one single one.
Well, we did. We did that last year.
Oh, that's right. Well,
Tyler, if you can mute me, I have to just cough and
Don't worry, guys. Renee will be okay.
me actually.
It's all good here. But no, I mean, I think for Columbus in general,
Help.
Someone send help to us here.
Hey.
But for Columbus here, look, I know we'd rather see us in the finals, and I get it. I'd rather see the parade. Who knows what a parade would look like here in Philly? But I would say I would rather see Columbus win over most teams in the MLS.
Okay.
Especially rather than LAFC, especially rather than FC Cincinnati as well. And just kind of the way they just, obviously we talked about before the 2018, Save the Crew. They were about to leave for Austin.
That's what people were saying.
They win during COVID, right? And then they missed the playoffs for 2 straight years. Wilfred Nancy comes in, brings his great philosophies and tactics, and just like that, they win the MLS Cup. And so that's why I feel optimistic going into next year, because there are some things that the Union have that Columbus had, but it's a great job. And I really want to give kudos to Wilfred Nancy. I mean, I've loved him since he took over Thierry Henry in Montreal. I thought what he was building in Montreal was spectacular, but it's just crazy. I had the same sentiment when Tony Dungy was the first Black coach to win the NFL. How does it take so long for us to have our first Black coach in 2023? This league's been around since 96. We haven't had a Black coach win yet. So for Wilfred Nancy, I can't think of anyone that's more deserving of it. And I think his legacy is going to continue in this league. I don't know if he wins in Columbus or somewhere else, but this man knows how to coach, knows how to win, and he deserves it.
Yeah, I'm unmuted, right? I'm back. I'm alive. Okay.
She's alive.
I just get choked up talking about championships, clearly. But yeah, I love the fact that Wilfred Nancy finally broke the barrier of becoming the first Black coach to win an MLS Cup. But I hate the fact that it took so long. And this is something that I always I don't like to have to talk about, but I feel like every once in a while, it's a good reminder of how far we still have to go.
For sure. In
sports, but in life in general, in society. And I mean, here we are in 2023, and we're just seeing the first Black head coach to win an MLS Cup. It just says a lot. But I know Nancy did a great job with the group and had some really good comments after. I'm proud to represent. Yes, the only Black coach to win the cup, but I'm not happy with that. This is something that has to change. And I know the MLS tries to do that. This is not only in MLS, this is everywhere. And I agree with that. It is everywhere, and it does need to be better. But the way that this group plays definitely is a reflection of the coaching of Wilfred Nancy. And 3 years in, has them gelling. I know we spoke about it on the show, and ironically enough, I remember sitting right in this chair saying, I wish the Union played similar to how Columbus plays when I was watching Columbus beat Orlando City at the time. And I was like, the way their offense was moving, the way they were able to just, maintain possession. They were very composed in the attacking third. They didn't force anything. They just worked to keep it. And I was hoping the Union would somehow be able to translate that same type of attack in their games. Of course, they didn't end up losing FC Cincinnati, and here we are. But there's always hope in the future. And I think the Columbus Crew really do a good job of embodying what I know I enjoy most about soccer. I love, like I mentioned before, crossing and finishing, set pieces, because that was me. That was my wheelhouse. But I also enjoyed the fluidity of having balance, that sometimes you're scoring off of a cross, but then sometimes you're just scoring off of the run of play where you're combining up the field. And I know, like you mentioned, that's what the Union have been in the past. You look at last season especially, that's what they had in terms of their attacking prowess, running through variety of different looks. And Columbus had a great group for that. Definitely loved the fact that pregame, instead of having the traditional pregame talk, they showed everybody's baby pictures of them younger, and they were all just having a moment to kind of laugh and
that's pretty cool.
Just be present, because these are the things you work for. Your entire life as an athlete is to get to your respective sports championship. And so in that moment, it's there are no words necessary. There's nothing to talk about. You know what? If you're not pumped up to play in a championship game, you're doing something wrong. So I even enjoyed that aspect of it. This group was different, very different. Also like the fact that we didn't have to see LAFC celebrating back to back. So to win at home, to now have the parade today, to win also 2-1 is a great game. Saw a goal, saw a PK, and that's what I liked. That was like, it wasn't just a PK that they won off of. Well, they were able to still turn around and score that second goal to be able to win. And then with that, there were some other really cool nuggets of information. So I saw for Darlington Nagbe, he made some history himself that he won his second title in 4 years. And with that, he also joins the list of players with the most MLS Cups under their belt. And that list includes players like Landon Donovan, who has 6. Who leads that list with 6, I should say. So to see Darlington crack that list is like the third highest is 4. He's at 4 right now. And of course, as I mentioned, 2 in the last 4 years. That was a really cool moment too. 32 years old and has cracked the list of players that have won the most MLS Cups. There's about
Absolute beast.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players. Oh, look at that. 10 guys, and he's in the mix of the top 10 to ever win an MLS Cup. So congrats to him on that. And then also, I don't know if you heard the story about Patrick Schultz, but first of all, incredible goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Holy crap. He makes some phenomenal saves. But it was a year ago. So Schultz is 22 years old, still very young in his career, very talented. 1 year ago, Columbus Crew 2, their second team, finished their inaugural season in the MLS Next Pro by winning the MLS Next Pro Cup, of course. 1 year later, Schultz, of course, is running it back with their top team, with the Columbus Crew. He was goalkeeper of the year for MLS Next Pro. He was the best 11 selection, and then turns around, and after winning it with the inaugural Crew second team, turns around, won the MLS Cup with the first team. So in 1 year, he won 2 titles in his respective leagues. Not to mention the fact, if you picked up on what I just said, he jumped from being the Crew's second team goalkeeper to the first team goalkeeper and helped them win a championship. So that is just like those types of stories. Union, I'd love to have that same type of a story of a guy that goes from the Union 2 to the Union 1 and helps win a title.
I didn't know
a year.
that one. That's a good tidbit there.
Yes, it's great. I didn't realize it either, but he was like, asked about it. He said, when I look back at where myself and some of the guys on the team were a year ago and just look to where we are now, it's completely different. I'm blessed. He's saying all the great things. But it is a phenomenal story when you think about it. When he played against, looking at the playoffs specifically, like he made some incredible saves. And to go from Crew 2 to Crew 1, and championship to championship, those are the types of stories that you love. So, yeah.
This team really showed you, like, it doesn't take much to get to where Columbus got to. You saw, like I talked about, 2 straight years, no playoffs. Will Fernandes comes in, and it really was like a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
It had some of the pieces that those are toys for him to play with. There was attacking pieces like Cucho. They get Diego Rossi in there as well. And it really was about the guys buying into the philosophy there, and they did.
Yeah.
And that to me just brings just optimism here, because obviously, listen, the Union can do the same thing, and Ernst has done it before, but just got to get the right pieces in here.
And Spiral Out, glad that you're in here because you're trying to get more into soccer. And this show,
I like that.
You need to start watching the show too. I agree. Watch us more, because I feel like we try to bridge the gap of all whether you're a casual soccer fan or new to the game, or someone that's, been following your entire life and watches MLS and Champions League and Premier League. We've got something for everyone. So the beauty
we got the
is
Philly
we will
sports
have
references too, guys.
I was gonna say we'll give you the Philly sports references to make things. I feel like it helps people understand things sometimes. Maybe you don't fully understand soccer, but you understand basketball, football, baseball, hockey, whatever it is. Not to mention, as we are now officially in the off season, thanks to the Crew winning the MLS Cup this past Saturday. Now we also have a chance to talk more soccer around the world, which is always exciting because it's been around the world and Do you know that song?
I don't know, but I mean, like, your Philly show tonight was definitely buzzing. I'm not talking about the hot stove there for the off season.
What I love is I just sing like one line and I'm always like, do you know that song? Do you know that song? What about that song? Been around the world and I can't find my baby. I don't know and I don't know why.
I do not know this song.
Okay, look it up. I
do like our eclectic music taste.
Thank you, Julia.
All of us have different tastes in music. I think that's what makes us all special here. PHLY.
I'm a little disappointed in you, actually, JP.
Was I supposed to say I like Pitbull?
Yes.
I see, like,
You don't like new Pitbull, but do you like old school Pitbull?
I told you. So like when he was coming up and like he was the baggy tee, baggy pants, rapping from the 305, Mr. 305 with Lil Jon. I like that. Kulo was cool. He did some merengue like in the late 2010s, or late 2000s. But other than that, I can't. And like,
did you like Shake?
Shake. I think I stomp the yard when I hear that.
Shake, shake. Oh yeah, that's valid. Shake, shake. Weren't they dancing in the rain in that scene?
That's one of my favorite movies.
Oh, me too.
I've watched that.
See, okay,
like
now we're back on the same side. That's literally one of my favorite movies.
Such a great one.
That and then Love and Basketball was one of my favorite movies. So I realized how toxic it is, and I'm now like, oh, maybe it's not my favorite movie anymore. But Pitbull is a little bit more commercial, quote unquote, these days, with more of like gimmicky. And I was talking to Bree, one of our producers, about it, and I agree with her. Like, it's a very bar, club, pop vibe now. It's not as much like, I think he went so far crossing over that he almost crossed over too much. But I still like his music. And I like the fact that he is on so many different types of tracks. Like, he was with, I forgot, Kesha with Timber.
Oh my God.
Timber. Yeah.
That's right.
And then was on music with like Usher and Neo and Justin Timberlake. Like he's dabbled in every type of music. So I'm dying on this hill alone. Apparently Spiral Out, because I put out a poll on Twitter though. So according to the Twitter following that I have, I'm not alone.
Where we at with Pitbull, guys?
I'm not alone, because when I last checked it, it was pretty even across the board for like yes, no, maybe so on our thoughts on Pitbull.
I'll tell you what, I have no choice but to play Pitbull at my wedding because my father-in-law to be is a huge Pitbull fan.
Yes. There you go, guys. So wedding music.
It'll be at the wedding, guys. No worries.
It's not just club music, it's also wedding music. We like that. Yay. Small victory for me. All right. And clearly you're marrying into a great family because they like Pitbull. So if nothing else, I've never met your future father-in-law, but they've got my vote.
There we go.
All right. Well, JP, it's been quite a week, as we talked about. The MLS Cup, of course, but also looking on, I have to like scroll through to see what else we wanted to hit on. But we did have, with the conclusion of the MLS season, there have officially now been 10 MLS clubs that will compete in the 2024 CONCACAF Champions Cup. 27 total qualifiers. So somebody cracked this number in an article and I read, it was like 37% of the field is from the MLS. So 10 of the 27 teams are MLS teams. And since the Columbus Crew won the MLS Cup, the New England Revolution also qualified. And to see how everybody qualified is quite intriguing. Mm-hmm. So the Columbus Crew won by winning the MLS Cup, FC Cincinnati because they were Supporters Shield winners. You had Houston Dynamo, who were US Open Cup winners. You had Leagues Cup winners in Inter Miami, and of course the runner-up in Nashville. And then the New England Revolution were next best in 2023 MLS Supporters Shield standing. So them and Orlando City qualified. St. Louis qualified for winning the Western Conference. Vancouver qualified for winning the Canadian Championship. And then the Philadelphia Union qualified by finishing in third place. Oh, I cannot forget that third place in Leagues Cup, which wasn't that great. So anyways, what is great though is that you have 10 teams that are going to be representing the MLS in the 2024 CONCACAF Champions Cup. So it's more soccer. Yay!
More soccer, another opportunity. This is a trophy that I've been wanting to win. Obviously, semifinals the last 3 years that they were able to make it. So time to get back there. We'll see, obviously, if this union can supplement this team with the depth. But it's definitely something that you want to definitely win here. I'm intrigued by because the main issue with this tournament has always been the start time for us, because typically it's at the start of our season, whereas these other clubs from Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean have already been playing for a little bit at that point. So that's the only thing. But obviously we have a lot more MLS teams in this now, so we might have a better shot to go back to back. That's important. This tournament's important for the legitimacy worldwide of our league, because it's a continental tournament. It's a big one there. So gotta get an MLS team in the finals and win it.
Oh yeah. And then also in international soccer news, the Copa America matchups are all set.
That's right.
So we've got some exciting news. The drawing for the Copa America was really entertaining, by the way, There were definitely a lot of people that are like, okay, like, let's move this along. There were some speeches because they have to do all the legalities and like celebratory types of procedures prior to the drawing. But as we talked about, there are 14 different host sites for the 48th edition of the Copa America in 2024. MetLife is one of them. That is our most, I guess, technically local location. And it will begin June 20th. And with that, we got the drawings. I know you're excited about Group D, though. How about that DJP?
Only here, guys. Only here. So obviously, I'm excited about this one only because we got Brazil, and I cannot wait. Obviously, coming off of the upset that we had with Brazil this past month or two.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm definitely excited there. Obviously, we have to find the winner of
Costa Rica and Honduras.
Honduras, yes, that's right. So we got to find out the winner of that, but we got Paraguay as well. So I like our chances in this group. There's not really a group of death in this, I would say.
I mean, I feel like the groups are pretty even.
Right.
I knew Tyler Zulli has, I don't know, I said your full government, but Tyler has told me before, he's like, Renee, I think it's actually you that's the child on all these shows. Like, I definitely stir the pot, and then like you and Jamie and Tyler just run with it, and I just kind of sit back. I'm like the one that lights the fire and just, I'm like, ping, and I just back away and watch it slowly explode. And of course, just tee everybody up. Oh, Pepita, I'm not on the naughty list. Oh no. All right, but it is Group D. It actually, I'm like literally saying Group D. So we've got Group A, Argentina, Peru, Chile, and then the winner of Canada and Trinidad and Tobago. That game is going to be played in March. And then Group B is Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Jamaica. USA is in Group C along with Uruguay, Panama, and Bolivia. And then your group, JP, Group D, is Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, and the winner of Costa Rica, Honduras.
Where we traveling to?
Oh, yeah. So it's great because we are still waiting on those final winners for those 2 spots remaining. That will be happening in March.
Mm-hmm.
For the U.S. men's national team, decent grouping for Group C. It definitely should be winnable. I know Greg Berhalter's feeling good about this and is like, yeah, you know, if there's not pressure, you don't get diamonds, is what he said. So,
Greg. Oh, Greg.
I was like, oh, what a line, Greg. It's very cliche, but what a line, Greg. So, you know, they didn't get the worst possible looking in terms of matchups, but it's winnable. There is definitely, I feel like, a nice balance across the group where you can't easily look and say, all right, these teams are the favorites to win their respective groups.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm expecting everyone in America to be giddied up for that tournament for that month there. So I mean, I have my gear ready. I don't know where you guys can gear for Copa America, but I know where you guys get gear for Philly sports attire, and that's with our friends over at FOCO, the leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectible, novelty items, and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Christmas time. It is a season of giving. Do you need a gift still? There's plenty of time, and you can check it out on FOCO with all the wide variety of different gift ideas that you can use. And for right now, for non-presale items, you can use the promo code PHLY10 for 10% off. That's right, PHLY10 for 10% off. Thank you to our friends over at FOCO, and make sure you guys check out our friends over at FOCO.
Yeah, and while you're there, also check out the Game Time app, because the Game Time app is a place you can buy some tickets to any concert, event, games that are happening. You can use code PHOI to be able to get $20 off of your purchase at the Game Time app. And especially now as we talk about holiday gifts, what a great gift to be able to give a friend, a family member, someone special in your life, then be able to hook them up with some tickets to a game. And you can also check out your seats through the Game Time app so you get a nice view of where you and your loved one or significant other or best friends or whoever you're going with for that concert, game, or comedy show will be sitting. So head over to the Game Time app, use code PHOI, get $20 off your purchase, and shop till you drop this holiday season with the Game Time app. All right, JP.
You want some last Union Tidbit news over the week?
Oh, sure.
So
I got more.
I know people still do not want to talk about Sunday night football, and I completely understand that.
What? I don't know what happened on Sunday night because I blocked that part of my brain out. Like those few hours did not happen, but it's fine. Go ahead.
I trust
Apparently
me.
they happened.
I trust me. I feel you. Well, The kicker for the Dallas Cowboys. If you are a Bethlehem Steel fan, you know him very well. Brandon Aubrey was a member of Bethlehem Steel at one point. So it was hard to kind of see that for sure, guys.
He could have stayed with Bethlehem.
Yeah. It's incredible though. He goes from, MLS journeyman to kicking for the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, hurting all of us Eagles fans here. So that was definitely not as fun as I thought it would be. And then Brandon Burke was once part of the Union during Sakavich years, back in with Sakavich over at Hartford. I do believe he was last year 2019, 2020, but Brandon Burke with Hartford, there's a lot of Philly and Hartford connections up there with Hartford Athletic, but that was interesting to see as well. So we got, listen, DOOP references all throughout the sports world and the world in general. So we will continue with that with our off season here, guys.
Yeah. It is not great to see the trajectory from Bethlehem to beating up on the Eagles with the Cowboys. But yeah, it's always interesting to see the way things work out. There's my spin. Life does some weird things that we don't even expect. That you go from playing with the Bethlehem Steel and several other MLS teams that you were vying for to now being in the NFL. There were some other news that we saw. A big retirement. Giorgio Chiellini retired, LAFC defender. Put out this heartfelt tweet that he's, it's a wrap for him. This is it. At 39 years old, he announced today that he's going to be done his soccer career, and it was great. He was saying I like the part. It's like you've been the most beautiful and intense journey of my life, and you really with sports, it's a whole relationship. Yeah. I always say, my first love was soccer. Mm-hmm. Before I loved a person, my first love was in soccer, was with soccer, because sports does become you cry, you laugh, you have memories together, you make friends, you travel, you grow up. It's a lot that you go through. So to see Giorgio's tweet and the video was just so heartfelt, and just kind of had me in my feels a little bit.
That's kind of the cool part about what the MLS is doing. You are seeing some of these Asian European players, but we would never be able to see Chiellini retire if he did, if he didn't leave Juventus and come here to LAFC. So it is really cool to see Italian defending legend, played so many years for legendary club Juventus. So he deserves to ride off in the great way that he did.
Yeah, go ride off in the sunset and go fishing out down south or something. I don't know what you do when you retire. I have no idea what that's like. Not there yet. I haven't thought that far in life. Also, we saw some signings and trades, just a couple to run through, and we'll continue to unpack these and share them as they come through. Chicago Fire and Colorado Rapids had a trade. So Andrew Gutman goes to Chicago. Miguel Navarro goes to Colorado. So seeing some changes, that's a nice defensive move for both left back trade that's happening there. Also, St. Louis City received Chris Durkin, and DC United, Jared Stroud, Lucas Bartlett, and $300,000. So some money involved in that, and general allocation money that was involved in that trade between DC United and St. Louis. And then, of course, JP, we saw some other moves that Tom was on top of and was highlighting on Twitter as well, such as Aaron Herrera to DC United, Raheem Edwards to Montreal, a couple other names that he listed as well.
Yeah, it's going to be busy. It's a lot of defensive moves as well, which is very interesting. Obviously, we're a league known not for great quality defense, but it's interesting to see that these teams are kind of interchanging with defensive players. But Raheem Edwards is the journeyman now. He's now on I think he's back in Montreal. I think he was in Montreal not too long ago, but Tommy Bogues, man, keep it coming for us. Keep it coming for us.
Yes. Feed us the updates. And then lastly, the Philadelphia Union's Foundation I Am project that they work with. And I had a chance last year when I attended the Union's winter gala and their benefits dinner to see a nice presentation for the I Am project. And so they actually have been working with Newman University to announce scholarships for the Chester Charter Scholars Academy students. So they're going to be working to provide scholarships. It's $2,000 scholarships that's renewable for 4 years that they're providing any student from Chester Charter Scholars Academy who applies and is accepted to Newman University. So great to see on the humanitarian side and nonprofit side that the union continue with their foundation around the I Am Project to have some great opportunities to be able to help students pursue an education and get an opportunity to attend Newman University. So hopefully they'll have another gala this year because I'd love to attend again. But it was just great to see they had some of the kids there last year. And so like now hearing these types of stories that come out about the scholarship makes it that much more meaningful that it's typically minority students. It's students that are coming from maybe like a single parent household or financially maybe can't afford to pursue a degree, you know, just providing opportunities for everyone, that now the I Am Project is able to do that. So some special things that are happening for the union in terms of their off the field impact that they're making as well, which was great to see.
It's more important than soccer sometimes, guys. And I love that we always do give back. You know, one of my favorite stories is reviving the Chester High School team. You know, that's, you know, besides the great gear that they got, but just seeing that,
Yes.
you know, bringing soccer to another community. You know, I see how big it is now, unites people all around the world, and we can do that here in our locals. So I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And that was, I mean, that's one of the things that I always say. Sports has such an opportunity. It's a platform. It's a space to be able to do more than just the game. So to see that come out, and actually I've been meaning to hit on that Newman University piece for a little while now, but just to see that come out that like they have been actively working to help the next generation is so special. So it's great to see. All right, guys. Well, we appreciate you all in the chats. Babita, Eugene, Spiral Out, Jose, all the different names that joined us today. And for those that are listening across podcast platforms, we appreciate you as well. Thanks for subscribing, tuning in, hitting that like button while you're here, joining in the conversation in the chat. Of course, as mentioned, we will be live having our PHOI shows. Although not the Union show, we will have our Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, Sixers shows live at Reading Terminal next Tuesday. And we will have more for us live on this upcoming Thursday.
That's right.
Back at 3:30 p.m. We have a special guest joining us live on the show in studio. And we will have a chance to continue to talk through all the off-season stuff, JP.
Oh, yeah.
So be sure to give us a follow at PHOI_Union. And of course, follow us as we continue to chat all things soccer here on our live show each week for PHOI Union. Tyler Zulli, JP Zapata, myself, Renee Washington saying so long from PHOI Union Podcast. And we'll see you back here on Thursday. Have a good one.
Dude.
We all silly like the mayor.